What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. We're back with some NFL DFS picks, lineup advice for FanDuel and DraftKings for tonight's single game showdown slate, Monday Night Football, Kansas City Chiefs, New York Giants. As you know, in this video, we'll talk about low risk and high risk lineup construction tips, some injury news to keep track of, and then some general strategies to help get you to the top of your contest leaderboards. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel, get notified whenever we go live, upload any new videos. Give us a thumbs up if you like the showdown content and want to see more. If you have any questions, you can always comment on the video below or join our Discord server. Click the join button below this video, occupyfantasy.com/discord to learn more on how to chat with other occupyfantasy.com members and staff. So let's jump right into it. Chiefs, about a 10.5 point favorite tonight against the visiting New York Giants. Chiefs, pretty clean bill of health on their injury report. Giants, per usual, as it has been for pretty much the entire season, they have some injuries that we have to deal with. And so let's get into it. Two players have already been ruled out for the Giants. Saquon Barkley, who suffered that ankle injury a couple of weeks ago, he's already been ruled out. And then Kenny Golladay with his knee issue, he's also been ruled out. Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, those guys are good to go. They're off the injury report. Sterling Shepard and Kadarius Toney are the two guys that we're looking at closely for tonight's game. Sterling Shepard, 7K on DraftKings. Kadarius Toney, 6,800 on DraftKings. And these guys, when they've been on the field, they've been targeted pretty heavily. Judging by the beat reporters and their observations during the practices over the last week or so, Sterling Shepard is pretty much guaranteed to go. He said he's good to go. Kadarius Toney is the bigger question mark. However, Jordan Rodden of ESPN basically said Toney's looking good and on track to play tonight. So the base expectation as of 11 a.m. Eastern Monday is that all these Giants weapons will be available outside of Saquon Barkley, outside of Kenny Golladay, which means in 3 wide receiver sets, we'll have Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton, all priced within $600 of each other on DraftKings. So, low risk contest, 50-50s, double ups, head to heads. We talk about this all the time in our showdown guide. Lock up all the scoring with 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. We can probably make that work tonight. The one scary thing, obviously, is the exclusion of Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. But again, everyone's going to have to make this decision for their low-risk lineups. So Patrick Mahomes, going to be the most popular MVP, captain, both sites tonight. We expect around 25% in tournaments. So if we start with Patrick Mahomes, Darrell Williams been getting a ton of work in CEH's absence, so let's get him in. Now, if we try to fit the other 2 guys in, Daniel Jones, Devontae Booker, that leaves us with just $2,300 left per player. Generally, this is tough to make work. However, on tonight's slate, we have an interesting pricing dynamic on both sides. Assuming all of the Giants wide receivers are active as expected, we don't have any Giants value, right? We saw this on the Arizona slate, not nearly to that extent, where all the Arizona players were priced up and we didn't have a ton of value on their side. It's kind of similar tonight with the Giants, where all of their players that are priced under 5K are rotational, situational reserves, right? So it's tough to play them. As a result, we see guys like, especially Demarcus Robinson at $800, Byron Pringle at $2,200, Jerick McKinnon to an extent at 1K. They're going to see elevated roster rates because there's no other value to play, especially on the Giants side. And the Chiefs are 10-point favorites. And if you look at most optimal lineups, they're very Chiefs heavy tonight. And that's how the field will primarily build. So $2,300, we can easily fit in, let's say, Demarcus Robinson. That's $3,800 left per player. We could fit in the Chiefs defense. We could switch this around a little bit. Now, if you're not comfortable with playing with excluding Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, you could get rid of Devontae Booker. I don't know if this is the route I would go, but it's possible. You play someone like Tyreek, that's 1K left per player. You can make it work. And if you want to play Tyreek or Kelce and you're not comfortable with the 1K or low-range options, you could always captain one of the cheaper players. Or we like to do this in high-scoring games on big favorites, captain the kicker. So we captain Harrison Butker. Let's get him in. That's $8,800 left per player. We can fit all these guys in, or a majority of these guys in. So that's just another option to think about. Now on FanDuel, it's not as cut and dry, right? We've had some slates recently. We've been blessed where we've been able to play 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. And if we try to do it today, Mahomes, Daniel Jones, Devontae Booker, Darrell Williams, $4,500 left per player. We're back to the FanDuel $4,500 rule where we can't fit them in. So generally in this scenario, what we've been advocating for on FanDuel, when we have a big favorite, we fade the opposing teams, the underdogs running back. So that would be Devontae Booker, especially when Darrell Williams is $500 cheaper as a favorite. So now we have 82.50 left per player. Get these three guys into your lineups. Absolutely MVP Mahomes. We expect him in tournaments to be upwards of 65% at the MVP spot, which is nuts. So he's going to be near 100% in low risk contests as he should be. Play Daniel Jones, Darrell Williams in the flex spots, and then fill in with your favorite values afterwards. Now, high risk contests is where it gets extremely interesting. We know this is what we know. In high risk contests, it's hard to judge by your results in Showdown, right? So one game sample, weird things happen, and it's tough to judge your results just because of the variance in a one game sample. How you can judge your results though is, do you know what the field is going to do? Are you accurately guessing or projecting the roster rates? And we do a fantastic job of that. We have a correlation of nearly 95% in our roster rate projections in the Occupy model, right? So we know what the field's going to do there. Do you know how the field's going to construct their lineups? Yes, we primarily know that the field's going to make X amount of this team heavy lineups. Tonight, we know that a vast majority of lineups are going to have at least 3 Chiefs. Most are going to have 4 or 5 Chiefs. Very few are going to captain Giants players. We know that for a fact. And if we know what the field's going to do, we can accurately pivot in other ways, and that's how we know we're getting leverage in high-risk contests. That's the number one way to know you're on the right track in Showdown. So if we know that the field is going to start with Mahomes, one of Tyreek or Kelsey, those 2 or 3 Chiefs value plays, 1 Giant, maybe 2 Giants, what does that mean? This is the perfect slate for this large underdog trend we've been trying to uncover in Showdown, right? If you can still play 3-4 Chiefs, but especially tonight, if Sterling Shepard or Kadarius Toney are active, and you play one of these guys who get pretty heavy volume in the passing game against a pretty poor defense in a game script where they should be trailing, let's say Sterling Shepard, pair him up with Daniel Jones, and now you can still play all these Chiefs and have a relatively unique lineup. So it's something to think about because, again, Mahomes going to be the most popular captain. Tyreek falls in next. Travis Kelce falls in right after him. Every single Giant's going to be sub 10% at captain. And understand, right? They're 10-point underdogs. Why would you want to play them? But again, pretty poor defense, trailing game script where they're going to be passing a ton. That's a recipe for tons of targets and PPR goodness on a site like DraftKings. So keep that in mind. The other pivot you could do is with everyone playing the Chiefs passing game, let's say the touchdown variance goes to the running game. We've seen this happen time and time again over the last few weeks in Showdown contests. Popular quarterbacks, Kyler Murray is the most recent example, but touchdown variance doesn't go their way, and in the red zone, the running backs get the touchdowns. What if that happens tonight, and Mahomes at 95% only throws 1 or 2 touchdowns, and Darrell Williams is the guy that benefits with a couple touchdowns? We could play him. We have him sub 10% at the captain spot as well, and now we don't have nearly as a contrarian to take. It doesn't seem that far-fetched to get there. We just need the touchdowns to go our way. So I think this is probably the most reasonable, especially a little bit smaller contest, the most reasonable pivot away from the Chiefs passing game. If you don't care about your life and you're playing the long-term ROI and you're worried and you're very concerned about leverage and getting unique lineups, the Giants captains are the way to go. And we can use the same approach over on FanDuel. Again, Mahomes 65%. Generally on a Mahomes slate, we advocate 0 or 100% exposure to him at the MVP spot in large field contests. If you go 100%, generally those Chiefs cheaper options go overlooked. Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, McKinnon, maybe the tight ends outside of Kelsey. But when they're popular, that eliminates any edge that we have. We generally want to play those guys because, one, they save salary, and we know saving salary helps us get unique in large field single game FanDuel contests. And 2, if they're sub 10%, sub 5%, now we're even more unique. But when those guys are 10, 15, 20%, that makes it so much more difficult and takes away a lot of the reasons that we're able to play Mahomes as a popular MVP. So in that regard, I think the move tonight is to not play Mahomes at MVP. And the best leverage is Darrell Williams, as we've talked about. He gets multiple touchdowns. Mahomes is limited in his touchdown production. Or Daniel Jones, who can run the ball, not completely far-fetched, and we expect him to be around 10% at the MVP spot. In a trailing game script, he throws for 300 yards, a couple touchdowns, rushes maybe for 1. Now he's the optimal MVP. And you compare him with maybe just 1 pass catcher because of his rushing ability. So a couple ways to go tonight. The key takeaway is get Mahomes as many Chiefs as possible in your low-risk lineups. In high-risk contests, think about ways that the Chiefs passing game fails or doesn't live up to expectations, or at least the field's expectations, and who benefits if they don't, and how can you benefit from that if that happens. So that's how you should be thinking about showdown contests, specifically on a slate like tonight where we see very clearly what the field is going to do. So that'll do it for this video. Appreciate you listening. Make sure you check out the Daily Plug at OccupyFantasy.com. We post it every Thursday and Monday for showdown slates. Obviously, we post it on Friday for the main slates. But in the Showdown Daily Plug, we give rankings for low risk, small field high risk contests, and large field high risk contests, and then specific lineup strategies for those contest types. You don't want to miss it. Normally posted by 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Links in the description below. Check out the Occupy model. We've already talked about it. Projected ownership with the rankings for all sites. And I think that's it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get notified when we go live, uploading NFL, MMA, NBA videos. Make sure you like the video. We appreciate that. By liking the video, it lets us know that we should continue to make more of these types of videos. So it helps us out, helps you out. Any questions? Best way, you can always comment on the video, but best way is to hop in our Discord server. We love chatting up with our members and staff. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord, or click the join button below the video. So Brian Jester for Occupy Fantasy. Appreciate you listening, and good luck tonight.